Mr. Ju was a fighter-class hunter, as beings who threw their bodies into the middle of combat. A fighter-class hunter's physical abilities were much greater than an ordinary human. On top of that, Mr. Ju was someone whose skills were acknowledged by a large guild, who had offered him a contract. "I can't die like this." With his body still lowered to the ground, Mr. Ju flexed the muscles in his legs. "The goal is the door." With an explosive start, Mr. Ju ran towards the door. Watching the man's attempt, Jinwoo turned away and looked back at the statue of God. As if waiting, the statue was looking at Mr. Ju. A ray of light exploded from its eyes. Beam. The ray covered Mr. Ju's back. One of the female hunters screamed, unable to control her fear. A yellow puddle slowly appeared from the ground she was collapsed on. The other hunters' faces hardened. Oh my god. No trace of Mr. Ju could be found where he stood, save for 2 feet on the ground, ending just above the ankles. The sound of a man retching reached Jinwoo's ears, and he furrowed his brows. As expected, this thing was more than capable of annihilating all the hunters in an instant. It was easier than stepping on an insect. So why isn't it? It could kill them all, yet it did not. Compared to the magic beasts that always threw themselves at the hunters, these things were different. Attacking someone only when they moved. Attacking someone only when they neared the door. There was a pattern and condition to their aggression. Like a game with rules. Perhaps there are rules to this room. In that moment, Jinwoo found a piece of the puzzle in his head. It was the tablet that Mr. Song was reading earlier. Commandments of the Kartanen Temple. A commandment was a rule, and rules must be followed. If there was a way out of this place, away from these things, the key was written on that tablet. Worship the Lord. Jinwoo spoke the first commandment out loud. Did you say something?" Mr. Song asked, facing Jinwoo. Instead of answering, Jinwoo put a finger to his lips. "If I'm correct." Slowly, Jinwoo got up. Mr. Song frantically tried to stop him, but Jinwoo shook his head at him with a determined face. "That's not a face that's given up on living." Mr. Song nodded at Jinwoo. Without looking away from the statue of God, Jinwoo slowly rose and raised his body gradually higher and higher. Suddenly, the statue of God's gaze fell upon him. Beam. If he hesitated even for a split second on getting back to the ground, Jinwoo would have lost a lot more than few strands of hair on his head. Back on the ground, Jinwoo panted heavily. He had almost died just now. When his eyes met the statue of God's, he knew he had looked at death right in the eyes. Having dodged the attack by a hair, Jinwoo's legs could not stop shaking. But it was not for naught.